I guess it's eventually the time for the magical finger snap. Oops, that went a little bit darker than I wanted. I wanted something a little bit more faint. So let me try it one more time, and hopefully this time it will click. Yep, that's more like it. This is the type of lighting that I want. So, over the centuries, we as a species, as humans, have committed a lot of mistakes and have created a lot of misery and has committed a lot of horrible crimes. And that could be traced all the way to the first human beings that ever wandered the face of the planet, all the way to Cain, who has committed the first murder crime ever known to humanity, as recorded in both the Quran and the Bible. But it doesn't stop there because killing and murdering isn't the only hideous act that extreme humans carry out. Because there's this one thing that we as a species, an entire species, collectively indulge in, collectively promote. And inherently, this thing, because it's bad, because it is morally wrong, has a lot of setbacks on all of us, whether those that indulge in it or those that avoid it, because it is extremely, extremely bad. Welcome to Between Emotions and Intellect, where I try to strike a balance between what I like to call intellectuality and emotionality. This is your friend Mahmoud, and in today's video, we're going to be talking about an utterly, utterly sensitive and important topic. In today's video, we're going to be talking about we're going to be talking about modesty. I felt the urgency to make this video because of the improper way that a lot of the content creators out there try to talk about this topic by either indulging in immodesty themselves and rendering themselves in front of the camera in an improper attire or an improper apparel or clothing, or by using revealing imagery or revealing content or revealing footage in their videos. So I felt the urgency to make this video, and here are some of the points that we're going to be covering in today's video. So feel free to jump to whatever point or whatever part of the video that you are most interested in, or you can watch the whole thing to be able to have a better understanding. Because in this video, we're not going to be only looking at modesty from a single perspective. We're going to be looking at modesty from multiple different perspectives. So I want you to follow along so that you can have the full picture of what modesty is and why it is important to render our world in a more modest way. Okay, so for the first part of the video, I'm going to be talking about this phenomenon of the constant growth of immodesty and the constant shrinking of modesty. And undoubtedly, there is a lot of multiple factors that contribute to the growth of immodesty and the shrinking of modesty. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to be only focusing on one particular factor, which in my opinion, most important factor that contribute to this type of phenomenon, which is undoubtedly social media. In my opinion, social media is one of the strongest tools that has reshaped our mentalities, that has reshaped our world collectively. And social media platform CEOs or social media platforms founders and co-founders and the institutions in general have spent a ton of money, a ton of dollars, and they spend a ton of dollars each year so that they can better understand the human psychology. And I believe they have come to the conclusion, this is just some prophetic guess that I'm making here, some prophetic speculation, that I feel basically they come to the conclusion that the human sexual drive is one of the most strongest impulses that anybody has. And based on this conclusion, they are constantly feeding your content or your home pages with this sexual driven content. And it's some kind of an ecosystem. The more you watch, the more you signal them to create and to promote this type of content on their platform. And let me cover the constituent for the entire ecosystem. You have the content creator, you have you, the consumer, and you have the social media platform owners. The more you watch, you signal. You're basically signaling both the CEOs or the owners of these platforms and the people that regulate these platforms and the content creator that you want more of this. So they're going to be creating more and more content of this. And because you liked it, probably there is somebody other than you in the world that is going to love this content as well. So they're going to start promoting it to other people. And it's there you go. You have a self feeding loop that is going to be working on you, that is going to be working on people that are similar to you, and people that are almost identical to you, because this is how we are. And basically, for them, they don't care about your well being and how destructive this type of content is for you. All what they are looking forward to is increasing their revenues. For the content creator, he wants to have a better life. So it doesn't matter if he is not a person of principles, he doesn't care or she doesn't care about going nude or going naked in front of the camera and making some stock, making some money out of her body. It's my body. This is the slogan that they all go for. It. This is my body. It's my body. It's my choice, my body, or whatever slogans they go for. So the more content they create, and the more you signal them that you like this content, and other people like you signal them that they like their content, they're going to be creating more and more of this content. And because this content is what hooks people up on the platforms, the owners and the people that regulate and manage these companies are going to be pushing this type of content and coercing this content and recommending this content for more and more people. And that's why social media platforms, if they truly want to reshape the world to the better, they have to gun down, they have to stop this type of content from being promoted and recommended to people. And as I said, because they don't care about this vision, they don't care about bettering the world as they claim, and they only care about what goes into their pockets, what goes into the what how to increase their revenues. They don't care about this kind of moral, visionary idea. So they are going to increase that content and they're going to promote it for more people. Okay, for the second part of this video, I'm going to be talking about modesty between now and then, because it is important to understand how people, especially women and girls, dressed in the past compared to what we see in the present. And after comparing and after seeing this comparison in reality, you're going to be able to realize the moral and the modest decline in our day to day life. Take, for example, how people dressed in the past. They would usually dress in long gowns or any other type of attire, like tunics or whatnot, and it's usually loose, dragging on the floor, long, loose sleeves, high necklines, and most probably headscarves. This is the most common attire that people had in the past. And this was the type of attire most common in the Victorian era, one of the most brought up eras when it comes to the argument of modesty or how people dress more modestly in the past. But now you can easily see for yourself how modesty declined over the years, starting at the beginning of the 1900s after the introduction of more revealing and immodest clothing, and after the introduction of feminism and women liberation and women empowerment. But is it really women empowerment or women objectification? Because if you think that revealing more of your body is empowerment rather than objectification, you are literally fooling yourself. I'm sorry to put it in that blunt way, but it is literally fooling yourself. Because you want to go around being attracted to that man or that man, and you think that is liberation because you are doing whatever you want and nobody is asking you and nobody is stopping you on the street and asking you why are you dressing like this. If you think that is women liberation rather than women objectification, because literally if you dress in that way on the streets, you don't think that men are going to be walking proudly and thinking that that is my liberated woman or that is my empowered woman, because you are going to be in the eyes of other men, you are just going to be some kind of a sexual stimuli. I'm sorry to put it in that way as well. I'm sorry to put it in that blunt way, but it has to be said. Some things have to be called out with their actual names, with their actual effects, for them to be able to have the proper effect. And it doesn't stop there. It doesn't stop like going to the beaches, being in the bikinis. I don't know what is more than this, but there is. There is more than this. Like you're literally what part of your body are you covering in on the beach? Because if you go to places like Colombia, for example, there is something called nude tourism in Colombia. Because if you go to Colombia, for example, there is something called nude tourism. And part of Colombia called, I guess, Medellin or something like that. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. There is nude tourism. There, like literally, there is this part in Colombia where tourists go, where prostitution is the common theme, where alcoholism is the common theme, and literally tourists walk naked on the street, like literally without any piece of clothing. I don't understand what are we gonna do beyond that? What kind of immodesty are we gonna decline into? Are we gonna strip our skins after that? Are we gonna take off our skins and show our flesh to the world? Is this the next revolution in immodesty? It is really and truly heartbreaking. Be able to compare how we render ourselves now and to be able to compare it with what people used to dress in the past, it's really and truly heartbreaking. And the common attire of this era, just to compare it with the other era or with the past in general, is basically short skirts, tight skirts, low necklines, and showed exposed belly buttons. It's really, really disgusting. If you compare it to the people in the past with long gowns and loose clothing, if you put them side by side, you're going to be disgusted of the moral decline that we have fall into. And also in this domain, I wanted to mention something that I have personally experienced myself. A couple of weeks ago, I was visiting a couple of friends in Alexandria, and we went to the beach because I wanted to go to the beach really badly. Because that was the first time that I'm that close to some kind of a beach. I've never been to a beach in my entire life. And I've seen something there really heartbreaking. It's not that I've seen any nude women or any revealed or exposing women, but I have seen how we bring up our children. I have seen children as young as 3 or 4 years old in bikinis. And that is the type of phenomenon, that is the type of upbringing that is going to teach our children subconsciously, even if we don't mean it, even if we're saying that they're still children, they don't know nothing, they don't know anything, so they're not going to be affected by what we're doing. But it is what you sow that you are going to reap. What you sow, it is commonly said that what you sow is what you reap. If you bring them up that way, if you bring them up to be exposing their bodies to the world, you don't expect that they're going to be magically covering up in their adulthood or in their adolescence. And this is something really heartbreaking because you need to pay attention to how you bring up your children. Now, after uncovering and unraveling the heartbreaking reality that we live in, it is important to understand why we need to dress more modestly. After exposing or after mentioning the hideous part of that reality and how we declined in our morality, it is important to understand what would be some of the fruits that we could reap out of dressing more modestly. And one of the points that I believe is going to be compelling to talk about is having a better harmonious society. For example, if men and women blend in a community where modesty is mainstream, there is going to be a better harmonious blending. They're not going to be viewing each other as sexual stimuli because really and truly there is going to be nothing for them to be stimulated by. And that is the point number one. Point number two, there is going to be respect from each gender to the other. And there isn't going to be that problem or that conundrum of objectification because women these days complain about being and viewed as objects, being objectified. That phenomenon is going to lessen drastically because there isn't going to be that stimuli that stimulated that point of view or that move of objectification. And now it's time for me to strike a balance for you to be able to understand better. Instead of viewing any immodest imagery or any revealing footage, I am going to be telling you with abstract words some kind of an example for you to understand. Imagine that two twin girls, equally as beautiful, walking down the street and they encounter a drunkard. They encountered somebody that's so tipsy, somebody that is unconscious, somebody that's revealing his true inner animalistic colors at that point of tipsiness. But one of them chose to dress more modestly, like long tunics, loose tunics, and long sleeves, covering her head, not showing any part of her body except for the hands and for the face. And the other one, on the other hand, chooses to reveal more and expose more of her body. She opts to expose more and more skin, like short skirt that is beyond that is up the knees, some kind of low necklines showing the cleavage, not covering her head. What do you think is gonna happen? I'm gonna leave the rest to the imagination because really and truly there isn't anything to mention about, like there isn't a need for me to continue the story beyond that point. And that is important to understand because if you think about that parable, that example of the two twin girls, you're gonna be struck, you're gonna be able to understand how important it is, how protective it is, not oppressive it is for women to be rendering themselves more modestly. Because people, since the beginning of feminism and the move feminism, they think that when a woman covers up, that is oppressive to her. But when she exposes more skin, when exposes more of her body, that is liberating. I don't understand what kind of liberation is this. And then they come and complain about objectification. That is really and truly paradoxical. That is something that I can't not fathom. Okay, after covering this area from a secular perspective, because as I said, I want this video to be more encompassing to more and more groups because this is a human issue that we need to collaboratively work on. I'm going to be talking about this from a religious point of view. And for me, the religions that I'm familiar with are the Abrahamic religion because I'm personally Muslim. And the religions that I know a little bit about are Judaism and Christianity. So it is important to talk about the area that I know a little bit about instead of speculating about other religions. I'm not going to talk for other religions. I'm not going to talk for Christianity. I'm not going to talk for Judaism as well. And it is important to understand that quoting or mentioning any kind of religion in this video doesn't mean that I personally subscribe to the theology or the doctrine of that religion. I am Muslim and I stick to Islam. So the first religion, we're going to be talking about them in a chronological order. The first religion I'm going to talk about is Judaism. And the concept in Judaism for modesty is called more or less, I'm not really good with the pronunciation, and I'm not sure because I heard multiple pronunciations for this concept. But I'm gonna pronounce it the way that I think it is supposed to be pronounced. And I'm gonna write it here as well. I'm not sure about the Hebrew spelling. I don't even know the Hebrew spelling, but I know the romanization. So it's more or less called Yud, I guess. Don't laugh at me when I say ziyut because I think it's laughable, quite laughable. Okay, and the concept of ziyut is the concept of covering up. And this concept teaches Jewish people or anybody that is interested in the Jewish tradition and reads into the Jewish tradition is going to understand that this concept refers to focusing more on the internal and not to show a lot of your body to the world, just what is needed to be shown. And I guess like you don't really need to show your, I don't know, like your thighs or your shins or whatever you are showing with those short skirts. I think they are important to be covered. There is no need for you to expose those to the world. So that concept of covering and modesty is deeply rooted in Judaism. Now, moving on to Christianity, there is the concept of you as a representation of God, you being the temple of God and your body, because contrary to the mainstream idea of my body, my choice, there is this concept in Christianity that your body is not only yours because it is a temple for the Holy Spirit. And for you to show your body this way to the world, that is a bad representation to God. And the third concept in Islam is the concept of haya. That is an Arabic terminology that is encompassing to a lot of areas, but for the sake of this video, we're going to use it interchangeably for modesty. And the concept of haya is basically like the others, covering yourself, not focusing on one's self externality, but focusing on the internality and your relationship with God. Now, before I wrap up this video, I want to leave you with one last example, with one last parable. And this is for all of my sisters out there. If you're walking down a street and you find two oranges on the floor and you are told and compelled, because really and truly, if you are not compelled to choose one of the two oranges, you're not going to bother pick either one of them because they're at the end of the day on the floor. But for the sake of the example, you are going to be compelled to choose one of the two oranges. One of the oranges is peeled, so it doesn't have the skin, and the other one is unpeeled, so it still has the skin. If you are compelled, and I'm not going to answer this, you answer it for yourself. This is a question for you. This is some food for thought for you to contemplate over. If you are compelled to choose either one of the oranges, which one are you going to go for? And before I end this video, I would like you to tell me genuinely what you think about the video in the comments and what are some aspects of the video that I could improve. And also, if you liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you would like to see more content that is talking about things in more depth from multiple perspectives, I would like you to subscribe to our small family and grow it up together. And before you leave the video, remember to never let the scale tip. I'll see you in the next one.